If what Charisse is saying is inaccurate, I have not seen Karen to date actually negate it and said that that never happened and that she is lying. She just keeps running away from Charisse and pretending as though she doesn't exist. And it's just kind of like, well, Karen, you still haven't dismissed what she said. So what is up, you guys? Welcome back to the channel. It's your girl Jada here, back with another video. So as promised, we are finally in this video going to be talking about season 7 of Real Housewives of Potomac. So it has definitely been a minute since I've discussed any bit of this show, and like I said in that other video that I did that I'll link in the corner here, I talked about, I think, episode 1 through maybe 5 or 6, but it wasn't that many episodes that had been put out, and I kept saying throughout the video that I wanted to wait to binge watch all the clips at once. I kind of ended up just pretty much not watching it for like the rest of it because the reunion came out, all 3 parts, and I just had to binge watch to catch up and talk to you guys about it. So here we are. But I decided I'm just gonna kind of skip the last couple of episodes that I had to watch leading up to the reunion, because I feel like it comes up in the reunion anyway, because they did a whole 3 parts. Like, really though? Bravo, you really need 3 parts? It was not that deep, you know what I mean? I felt like they just kept dragging out a lot of the topics just to make it a 3-parter, in my opinion. Let's hop right into it. So Andy, he starts off by, of course, his usuals, you know, asking everybody how they're doing, you know, is everything good, yada yada, right? They bring up everybody's love life. Apparently Giselle is dating some youngling, at least like probably a little less than actually half her age, and it's just kind of like, okay, interesting. Of course, Ashley is also dating someone now that I think Michael and her are trying to finalize their divorce. When I say trying, I really mean trying, because it sounded like throughout the show that they wasn't gonna get a divorce. Like, they was gonna eventually repair their relationship and get back together, because it sounded like she was all over the place, you know? Ashley, of course, now has her kids living with her, and I think every now and again Michael would either come over, or because apparently he has a key to her house, which I'm like, I don't know about that, but you know, if his name is on the paperwork, then yeah, but whatever, I'm gonna let her do her, because obviously that's the father of her kids, no matter how weird he is, you know. But he starts talking about her health scare. I can't remember if this was like after or before Giselle talks about her hysterectomy, because they had found that I think some growths within her like uterus and stuff, so they pretty much just had to take her entire uterus out, so hence the hysterectomy. And she was saying that a lot of women were reaching out to her, yada yada. So I think this is probably after Mia had said something about her health scare. And then of course Candace was like, why are you surprised? It was like the first time you were being real with something about what's going on in your life in the show. And I personally feel like, yes, when it comes to Giselle, she's very much into everybody else's business, very nosy, loves to pry, loves to be very messy. But then when it comes to her life, it's like, nope, that's kind of like private territory, don't touch that, you know what I mean? It's just kind of like, okay, very interesting. But moving on, we start talking about Mia and Gordon. They apparently lost their business, or a good chunk of their businesses, and watching her trying to explain it was something in itself, because it was like, sis, that don't really make sense. I'm not a businesswoman. I don't know much about obviously the business world and being a CEO as of right now anyway, but I still don't think what she said made sense. I'm just going to be real. Apparently her board had voted her and Gordon out. I don't know how that's, if you're the CEO, I don't understand how that's possible, but I guess, you know, but okay. She said that they lost their business and business wasn't doing so well with their whole chiropractor thing. And I'm just kind of like, okay, interesting how all throughout the last 2 seasons that she's been in, she could talk about was being a businesswoman. You know what I mean? It's just like, And also she lost her house. They lost their house that they were renting. And I'm like, what is going on, Mia? What is going on, sis? Like, are you spending too much money on plastic surgery? Anyways, so Candace eventually opens up about Robin putting her on blast at their dinner in Miami. And I think this was the dinner after Mia had thrown that drink on Wendy, which we're going to talk about a little bit later, okay? I wrote everything down. I have notes. Oh no, I come prepared with the notes, okay? But Robin had her speaker. She put Candace on blast. But it's something that Candace has said numerous times. I don't even know why you're shocked. You know, obviously she's not talking about you, Robin. Okay, like I just thought that was kind of dumb. It was like, Robin, clearly she likes you. I don't think she means you. Let's use our brain, okay? But anyways, so they talk about that, and Candace, you know, she opens up and says she felt kind of betrayed by that. But yeah, I could kind of see how that could ruin a little bit of your friendship. However, I wouldn't say I wouldn't be friends with you. However, I would watch you, you know what I mean? Because that's weird. Karen brings up her show, which is now a thing, okay? Shortly after the Reasonably Shady podcast with Robin and Giselle blew up, and they had their show. That was a whole episode where they went to watch Robin and Giselle have like a live show of their podcast. And Karen was making fun of them the whole time, talking about she was making notes because she wanted to know what not to do at her show. And I'm just kind of like, but when since were you talking about having a show? It came up eventually in the conversation later on. It was like, it seems like you keep copying people. Remember when Wendy was like, yeah, I kind of want to do candles, you know what I'm saying? Like kind of like a home goods type of thing. She wanted to start off with the candle though, and Karen was like, yeah, you know, do you. But then she comes out and says, oh, we're also doing candles, but it's a 3-wick candle for her La Dame collection. And I'm just like, okay, this is very interesting that she just keeps happening to do things that's kind of similar to what her friends are doing, but she's saying that she's doing it differently and that she'd been planning on doing it beforehand. So it's like, I'm not copying, but it looks as though you are based on the timing that you're coming out with these things. But okay, Karen, okay. I'm gonna move on to Mia throwing a drink on Wendy. And obviously that was an interesting talk of discussion, because I do feel like that's very much so assault, okay? I don't really see any way around that. It is what it is, and I think Wendy was very much so correct on that one. And in my last video, I remember I talked about this a little bit, and someone in my comments was like, Wendy and Candace, they seem to be the only ones that were taking accountability for their actions the entire season. I have to agree with you. After watching the entire season plus the reunion, yes, it definitely seemed as though that was the case, surprisingly, even though I do think that Wendy, she has a tendency throughout the last couple of seasons that she's been in, she has a tendency of pretending like what you said happened never happened, even though it got recorded and put on live television. So it was like, what are you talking about, you know? So I do think that Wendy actually took quite a lot of accountability for the things that she did and said in the past, and also in this season. I think this season she definitely did a good job with actually taking accountability for those things. However, the other ladies did not do that. So shame on you. Mia did not really take accountability for the drink throwing during the reunion. She just kind of pretended like, you know, I guess Wendy was disrespecting her to the point where she had to throw a drink and that it was Wendy's fault. And then Robin comes in and says you were antagonizing her, which I do agree. Obviously, she was antagonizing her a little bit by saying the things that she was saying about her and Gordon's marriage and stuff. However, I don't think it warrants you throwing a drink on someone ever, or putting your hands on them. Thankfully, it didn't escalate to that situation, but someone held Mia back. I can't remember who it was, and thankfully it didn't get to that point. But Karen ended up on the hot seat. I can't remember if it was because of Wendy or someone. I can't remember who it was, but they put Karen on the hot seat, basically saying that Karen should have been the one. If you're friends with both of those ladies, you should be the one to kind of cool down the situation. But in the video footage, you could clearly see that Karen was just trying to get out the way. And I don't blame her, because I mean, I'm gonna try and cool the situation down from behind the scenes. Like, I don't want to be in the middle or in between you guys when you're throwing drinks at each other and possibly about to fist fight, okay? Because Wendy even said it took a lot out of me to not, like, you know, give you a two-piece, basically. And I'm like, good for you, sis, because you have a lot to lose. You know what I'm saying? You got kids, you got a family, you got a couple of businesses that she's interested in pursuing, and then also a couple businesses that she has running already. And on top of that, she's a professor at Johns Hopkins University, I think. So it's a lot of things that she has to lose. So being on a reality TV show in general, I don't know if that's a good idea when you're trying to not lose those things. However, I would say that if you're going to be on a reality show, at least try your best to conduct yourself in a positive way. You know what I mean? If you're going to be shady, just be reasonably shady. You know, don't be cussing at people, throwing drinks, because then that's a bad look. You know what I mean? So with Wendy, I'm happy that she didn't give her the business. However, I can understand why she did get emotional talking about it. And with Candace, she brings up her situation with Monique, and that kind of made me a little mad, because it was like you could clearly see in the episode where Monique pretty much puts her hands on Candace, grabs her hair and all, starts throwing punches. At least it looks like punches anyway. But even though I do not back you putting your hands on anyone, when you start putting your hands in people's face like this, that is definitely what Candace was doing. With Mia and Wendy, they were sitting on either ends of the table. Karen was sitting in the middle of them. So it was like, obviously there was like antagonizing, you know, a little bit, because of what Wendy was saying was a little inflammatory about the whole marriage thing, you know. Obviously it was a bit inflammatory because you're talking about someone's marriage, you know. But with the situation with Monique and Candace, it was different. I'm just going to be real. It was very different. So I still don't really feel sorry for her entirely, because she did kind of put herself in that situation. Come for me if you want to. I am not saying that it is okay what Monique did. She apologized for it several times. However, yes, she, I think, should have handled that a lot better. Considering she's a mom, she has a business, she has a lot of things going for her. It'll be better if you just keep your hands to yourself and walk away from the situation than what she did. However, she apologized several times for what happened. But the thing is, I kind of led to her leaving the show. So I think that it's totally different. And I think that it's kind of disingenuous to keep bringing that up in relation to what happened between Wendy and Mia. It was completely different. But moving on, okay? Eventually, you know, the colorism conversation comes up, and Andy kind of excuses itself and leaves the ladies to kind of talk amongst themselves. And it starts off with the definition, and they pretty much continue talking from there. And I try not to talk about that too much on my channel, because I am a fair-skinned black woman, okay? And I feel as though whenever I do try to talk about it, a lot of people come for me in the comments just talking about the experiences that I've had. It's pretty much kind of like it doesn't matter. So I just don't talk about it at all. So I just wanted to bring that up, that it came up in the conversation, but it does kind of bring itself back up later on in the reunion. Moving on from that part, Mia and Jacqueline. So Jacqueline's BFF, or ex-BFF at this point, because it doesn't seem as though they've made up even up to the reunion point. They start talking to each other about the situation that happened during the trip to Mexico that Ashley had invited all the ladies on. And they started off okay, but it seems as though they had a little tiff on the plane because of, I guess, Mia sending a message to Jacqueline about her not feeling as though she should be responsible for her kids or something like that, Jacqueline's kids. I think I have that correctly. Let me know in the comments if I don't, but I think that's what they were arguing about on the plane. And then they came off the plane and it just kept escalating from there. There was a argument again between the two ladies about each other's past, and it seems as though Jacqueline was sleeping around with married men. So Mia was like, you should close your legs to married men. And it was like, why would you put that out there if that's your best friend? And apparently Mia has also said that she used to dip and dabble with married men as well. So it was just kind of like, I mean, seems like both of y'all, you know, just casting stones when you're both guilty, but okay. But then again, Mia was just the main one casting stones because she brought that up. Yeah, Jacqueline was just kind of staying quiet about the situation, but I'm still trying to figure out why, if that's your best friend, why would you bring that up? Because you're basically saying it to, you know, get a rise out of her, and then also to make her look bad in front of the other ladies in the group. So it was just kind of like, for what, you know? And then at the reunion, they ended up both bringing receipts on each other, text messages and stuff like that. It was like, What is this? It just seems like Mia is on one in this season. I could not figure out why. How do you go from being best friends and showering together to not even being able to speak to each other or be in each other's presence without arguing? It just seems very much so you're doing this because you now have attention. You know what I mean? On Mia's end of things. I don't understand how you could be best friends for a decade plus and now all of a sudden, you know, you can't talk to each other. It's just very strange to me. But I'm just gonna put a pin in that one because they still haven't worked that out. So Charisse ends up coming on, and she of course talks to Andy about the situation throughout the seasons really that has been going on between her and Karen, because obviously we know that Charisse has said many things about Karen and her marriage, and then also there was a situation at Robin's bachelorette party where she was basically insinuating that Karen would sleep with any Tom, Dick, or Harry, and Mia said at one point, you know, she was asking basically like, are you saying that she's a P word? Mia brings that information back to Karen, and because she brings that up, she's just like, well, did you defend me? And Mia's just like, well, no, I didn't. And I'm like, how do you expect, first of all, a drunk person at a exotic dancer club, that's what I'm gonna say, exotic dancer club, how do you expect her to like actually come to your defense really? Like, what is she supposed to say? Because none of the ladies came to your defense. If you're gonna come at Mia, go after everybody. You know what I'm saying? It's just kind of like, I mean, Candace was there. She didn't say anything. It just seems like you're just going after Mia. I don't know. That's weird. Basically, Karen and Charisse go at it. And it just seemed like a geriatric fight. I'm just going to be honest. It's like, y'all are too old for this at this point. Y'all got grown behind kids. Too old for it. Too old for it. And it just looks so crazy watching it back. It's like, y'all are really arguing over something really dumb. If what Charisse is saying is inaccurate, I have not seen Karen to date actually negate it and said that that never happened and that she is lying. She just keeps running away from Charisse and pretending as though she doesn't exist. And it's just kind of like, well, Karen, you still haven't dismissed what she said. So even Giselle said it. She was just like, you still haven't really said that what she said is not true, so is it? Like, it's just like, I don't understand. So it's very weird. It doesn't look good. And literally every time throughout the season and in seasons past, whenever Charisse would come around or get invited to things, Karen would just run away. Be like, oh my God, you know, it's time for me to go, and you know, I'm not feeling too good, I need to go. And it's just really it's so sad. Robin and Juan at the end of the season ended up having their wedding, and throughout the season Karen kept pressing Robin about it, and she was just like, well, you're not really making much sense about the planning because it seems as though you're not really having a wedding, and it seems like you're still all over the place. So Karen, it just felt like she had a hard on basically for that. And I was like, girl, why are you so obsessed with when Robin is having this wedding? Like, it's between her and Juan whenever they decide to figure out the situation out. Eventually Karen, when they were in Mexico, Karen comes up and she talks to Ashley outside of the group, and she's just like, well, you know, I know that Juan has another woman and she kind of looks like me and she's matured and she's up there in age. And it was just kind of like, yeah, clearly you are making that up, Karen, but okay. Robin and Juan end up having their wedding in Maryland. So they scratched the Jamaica thing because at one point they were considering having it in Jamaica after, I think, her or Juan's brother or cousin's wedding. I don't remember. But after another wedding, they were planning on having their little ceremony. And when I say little, I mean very little, like just her, their kids, and nobody else. But then eventually she ends up caving in and letting her parents come in and sit at the wedding. But regardless, it was a little strange. It was like, why do you not want anybody there? But, you know, do you? If that's the best way and you think that you just prefer to just not have people there, okay, you know, let it be between y'all two. But it was a little strange. So they ended up signing a prenup that was like a 50-50 but without a fidelity clause. So basically Robin was saying, like, just in case I mess up, so she's good. That's just funny. But eventually we do find out something about Juan before the reunion, unfortunately, that we're going to get into a little bit later. But Robin's family fun day, they bring that up about her not inviting Wendy. And I'm I'm like, let's be honest, Wendy, it was not about your kids, it was about her not liking you. Robin did not like you at the time. And I find it so interesting how they made up and then they still have issues. It was like, okay, I thought we were good, but I guess not. Yeah, so with these ladies, it's so all over the place and so fickle. It's like one minute they make up and then the next minute they find another reason to hate on each other. And I think obviously because Wendy had kind of laughed about the situation when Karen was making fun of her, well, was making fun of Robin and Juan's relationship and how Juan was possibly cheating on her, which we're gonna get into. But, you know, Wendy kind of laughs at that joke. And I guess from that, Robin got that she wasn't really a friend like that. So she decides to not invite her to her bachelorette party and not invite Karen either, obviously. So I think just little things like that, it's just, yeah, they need to figure that ish out. The husbands enter and Juan is noticeably missing yet again. I feel like he's hardly ever there. I think he was there for one reunion. Robin always has some excuse, always talking about he's working. And I'm like, I kind of believe you, but I kind of don't all at the same time. So yeah. Eddie comes in as well, Wendy's husband. And I think it's so interesting that I think it was one of Ashley's friends, like one of her mom friends. They pretty much had something to say about both Candace's husband, Chris, and also Wendy's husband, Eddie. And she was basically saying how both of them were kind of flirting with her and being really smiley and talkative. And it was just kind of like, really? Like, okay. And then we look at the footage and Eddie was not paying attention to anybody. Chris was not talking really or looking at anybody like that. Okay, so it was very strange, but I was like, okay, we're making stuff up now. All right. Gordon, he talks about his relationship with Jacqueline and basically how they were insinuating, at least the other women in the group anyway, they were insinuating that Gordon and Jacqueline had slept together and that they used to have like threesomes together. And he was just like, yeah, no, I never actually her. Like, I don't want to say that. I'm probably gonna block that out, but yeah, he was just like, yeah, we did other things. So I'm just kind of like, so you did sleep together but not really? It's just okay, sir, okay. So that's a weird relationship they got going on. For the moment we've been waiting for this entire season, and it seemed to be a very interesting underlying theme that carried out throughout the entire season, and it was about Chris and Giselle. So Giselle, during a dance class earlier on in the season, in one of the episodes, she had came up to Candace while Candace was alone and was like, hey, Chris kind of made me feel uncomfortable during our last reunion because we went to my hotel room to talk and it was just me and him, so he kind of made me feel uncomfortable because of that. And it was just kind of like, okay, you know, and even Robin was just kind of like, but did anything happen though? Did he do anything to physically make you feel uncomfortable? So she still could never actually say what he physically did to her. And he kind of presses Giselle on that a little bit as well. It was like, I don't understand. Like, you know, it just seems very interesting. And like I said earlier, the whole colorism thing, it comes up again. And Candace, she basically says, you know, because Giselle is light-skinned, people are more willing to believe her and feel sorry for her about her situation of, you know, I guess Chris making her feel uncomfortable than if it was someone that looked like her or Wendy or that was a little darker skinned. Everyone was just kind of like, okay, I guess, yeah, sure. People were just kind of agreeing with her on that level, but she had said something else a little bit that people were just kind of like, whoa, like that's a bit much, you know? And I can't remember what it is and I didn't write it down, but y'all let me know your thoughts on that in the comments. I do have to say, I kind of agree with what she said. You know, I do feel like with darker skinned women, they don't get taken as seriously, unfortunately. But I do think that it is something that keeps kind of coming up in the group dynamic. And it's just kind of like, it's something that you can't really change about yourself, that you're light skinned or dark skinned. You know what I'm saying? So it's just kind of like, I mean, technically you can, but chemically and not in a healthy way. So you just don't really do it. But yeah, it's something that I think they're going to have to work through because it does seem like it's something that is very much so pressing in Candace's mind. Not so much Wendy's, it seems. I feel like Wendy, she kind of brings it up here and there and touches on it, but I feel like Candace feels as though she experiences it a little bit more. But we're gonna keep it pushing. In terms of the Chris and Giselle situation, I said that he kept pushing Giselle on it. He was like, what did I do? What did I do to actually make you feel uncomfortable? And she's just like, I mean, you just made me feel uncomfortable. Like, we were in the hotel room, you made me feel uncomfortable, but it still wasn't answering the question. So we got nowhere with that. And then at that moment, Candace just basically says, you gutter snipe BA lying on my family, to Giselle. I'm like, what does gutter snipe mean? What does that mean? I would really like to know. I mean, obviously what Giselle's saying is basically insinuating that he did something to you. You know what I'm saying? And it's not a good look for Chris, and it's just, it makes him look bad. And then now you also drag in his family into the situation because they're connected to him, and it's just like, I'm Giselle, really? You know what I'm saying? But in terms of cheating, Ray eventually talks about what I guess Therese was insinuating about Karen cheating on him. And he's just like, I just ignore it. You know, like, I don't know what she's talking about. It just sounds like a bunch of BS. But the thing is, like I said earlier, Karen never really shuts it down. She just keeps walking away from the situation and arguing about things that have no relevance to the topic. And it just seems like, Karen, really? You know what I mean? And then also 2 weeks later on Watch What Happens Live, they invited Robin on to talk about a situation that happened between Juan and another woman. So apparently, based on what Robin is saying, Juan does get caught in another kind of scandal in a way, because he was talking to another female, and it looks as though he was talking to her to possibly give her like a hotel room or something like that. And I was just like, sis, this don't sound right. It just seems like a repeated thing with Juan. So again, I'm always very wary about you going back to old like flames and relationships, trying to rekindle things. If you guys were divorced the first time, I think, yeah, there was a reason. I think it's gonna keep happening. I don't know if this happened before or after, like right after the wedding, but it had to have happened within the year. That's very suspect to me, very suspicious that that happened so quickly after or before they got remarried. And it just seems like Robin, again, is just gonna sit down and be okay with it. She's saying that they talked about it and they feel better about the situation, that they're in a better place and all that, but it's just like, it seems like you're lying to yourself again, because you feel as though more than likely that you made a mistake by remarrying the same man that you had issues with and divorced, and now you're trying to make yourself feel better about the situation. But that's pretty much going to be it for this video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this wrap up of season 7 of the Real Housewives of Potomac, but I'm definitely excited to see where I think Real Housewives of Atlanta is going, and also Married to Medicine, which I've still never talked about on this channel. I need to, but I have so many different shows that I try to keep up with, and yeah, and also movies. I have a movie that I wanted to talk about too, a couple of them. But yeah, with Potomac and Atlanta, they are the only ones I really watch from the franchise, so I keep up with both of those. But Atlanta lately has been getting a little dry, so we're gonna see what they try to do, or who they boot off, or who chooses to leave this coming season. Hopefully they're having a coming season, I don't know, but yeah, we're gonna see how that goes. And then also with Married to Medicine, apparently they're actually bringing in, who was it? Oh yeah, Phaedra. And then also Quad's, what was it? Her ex-husband and his new wife are joining the cast as well. And I think they're giving Contessa and I forgot the girl, the other woman's name. Gee, she was Indian. I can't remember her name, but I'm just gonna put it on the screen. But basically they ended up getting the boot, it sounds like. So we're gonna see what actually transpires on that next season. There's some things that I need to talk about when Real Housewives of Atlanta comes back. Yeah, that I'm gonna need to discuss before that. But anyways, y'all enjoy the rest of your day, evening, night, whenever it is that you're watching this, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.